there are only two kinds of people who do not experience painful emotions. The first kind are the psychopaths. The second kind are dead. There is a false understanding or expectation that a happy life means being happy all the time. No, learning to accept and even embrace painful emotions is an important part of a happy life, and the study of painful emotions is an important part of the field of happiness studies. My name is Tal Ben Shahar. I'm a student and teacher in the field of happiness studies, and my most recent book is Happier No Matter What.
Stopping it there, guys, and welcome to Mika Reacting Reviews, where we react and review to things on the internet, same day, same shirt, different video. And today we're reacting to a video called Big Think. I love this YouTube channel. It is filled with videos about philosophy and I don't know, the intellectual dark web and asking questions and curiosities, and I just love anything like that. It just gets me hyped. It is the basis of my happiness. I love learning, I love thinking, I love things that make me think. And so it's not the most popular videos on my channel, and that's fine. I still like making these videos. But anyway, the title of this video is Anti-Fragile, which I think there's a lot of people in this society today that needs to hear this message. I think this YouTube channel does a very good job at delivering a message, and not even a message, but facts and statistics and data and scientific studies and philosophy in a very short and precise way. And unlike me, who is very long-winded, as you can see. But anyway, we're gonna get right back into it. But before you do, if you like typing videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the button, get the notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. And if you'd like to support this channel even further, you can donate. My PayPal and Cash App link is in the description box below and also in the comment section. Of course it helps, but you don't have to. You can just like, comment, and subscribe. Another great way to support this channel is either join my brand new membership program, different levels, different tiers, different perks, or you can visit my brand new merch shop, links down below. And all the links to the eternal platforms I'm on, my socials, including my Twitter, all the ways to support me and all the ways to contact me for business is always in the links down below. Other than that, guys, sit back, relax, and continue to enjoy the video. All right, here we go. I believe there's something called happiness studies.
There is a very important concept that was introduced by Nassim Taleb, and that is anti-fragility. Anti-fragility is essentially resilience 2.0. Resilience 1.0 is when we put pressure on a system. After the pressure is lifted, that system goes back to its original form. Anti-fragility takes this idea a step further. You put pressure on a system, it actually grows bigger, stronger. We see anti-fragile systems all around us and within us. For example, our muscular system. We go to the gym and we lift weights. We're putting pressure on our muscles. What happens as a result? We actually grow stronger. We're an anti-fragile system. On the psychological level, you know what that's called? PTG, post-traumatic growth. So where post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is about breaking down, post-traumatic growth is about growing stronger. As a result of pressure, stress, it's anti-fragility. The role of the science of happiness is to teach us what conditions we can put in place to increase the likelihood of growing from hardship.
Stopping it there. Okay, the reason why I think this video needs to be heard, especially in my generation and a younger generation, because even the word anti-fragile and resilience has been seen and even mocked as that's white supremacy, that is patriarchy, that is a privileged talking point, right? And I think that's why you see such an uptick in mental health these days, because so many people are fragile. We've seen in a documentary, Social Dilemma, that Gen Z is one of the most fragile generations there is, because my generation and the generation before were taught good parenting is bulldozing every single obstacle out of the way so your child can prosper. But what you have done is you've taken their ability away from them to be resilient and to be anti-fragile. Now what you see with Gen Z is bulldoze every obstacle out of the way, give me everything I need to pursue pursue my passion and my happiness. And everyone in the world itself needs to become my safe space for me to even thrive, for me to even feel that my humanity is being respected. We are creating more and more of a fragile generation, which is sad because this generation is going to continue to suffer mentally and psychologically because of that. So that is the reason why I think this is important. I do believe that hardship makes someone not only a more happier person, more resilient person, but just a well-rounded person, more empathetic, more strong-minded, more stoic. And I'm not saying that you have to go through like torture for the all your life to be happy. Even my background and my childhood, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But you've seen people who literally had everything handed to them, even though they would still scream about their oppression. They are so weak-minded, they are so entitled, and they seem so freaking miserable. But anyway, that's enough. I'm gonna get back into the video.
Now, there is a paradox when it comes to pursuing happiness. On the one hand, we know that happiness is a good thing, whether in and of itself or as a means toward other ends. At the same time, we also know from research by Iris Moss and others that people who say to themselves, happiness is important for me, I want to pursue it, those individuals actually end up being less happy. In fact, they're more likely to experience depression. So the paradox is that on the one hand, happiness is clearly a good thing. On the other hand, valuing it as a good thing is problematic. So what do we do? The way to resolve this paradox is that we pursue happiness indirectly. Think about sunlight. So if I look at the sun directly, it's going to hurt my eyes. However, if I break down sunlight into its elements, into its constituents, I can look at the colors of the rainbow. So I'm indirectly looking at the sunlight, enjoying it, savoring it. In the same way, pursuing happiness directly can cause more harm than good. But breaking it down into its elements can lead us to enjoy the indirect pursuit of happiness and by extension, to raise our overall levels of happiness. What are the metaphorical colors of the rainbow when it comes to happiness? Here we have what I've come to call the SPIRE model, and it can trigger the AntiFragile system. SPIRE is an acronym that stands for spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and finally, emotional well-being.
Before we get into all those sections, I love that spirituality is a part of this. I also love that intellectual is a part of this. And I love that emotional is a part of this. I've noticed emotional is sort of at the bottom. I don't know if that means it is in order of importance. But I love that all of those, along with the others, are a part of this. Because I do think people neglect spirituality. I also think people neglect intellectual pursuits, but put emotion above everything else. And Dr. Jordan Peterson has talked about this. The pursuit of happiness is only a direct, beeline to being sad and depressed. However, I also think that goes on with our culture. I've said this before. You probably heard me say this term. We have junk values in our culture, and so a lot of people think the pursuit of happiness is pursuing junk values, materialism, money, sort of false fake relationships that don't ever go deep enough at all, image, what we look like, the pursuit of validation, the pursuit of fame. A lot of that stuff is junk values, and a lot of that stuff is what a lot of people falsely believe is going to make them happy. So they're constantly chasing after this high of things that only give you a temporary burst of dopamine, but it's never going to truly make you happy. And even the word happiness, for me, this is just a personal thing, because my mom's always said this to me when we were growing up, is that never pursue happiness, pursue joy, because joy is internal. No matter how depressing that day is, no matter how dark the storm clouds are, you always still have that inside of you. You know that the light will come back, a good day will return, where happiness is temporarily because you're only getting that feeling when something happens. So you're now relying on outside sources to get that sort of feeling, right? And so that's just a personal thing. But anyway, let's get back into the video.
Spirituality is about finding a sense of meaning and purpose in life, at work and at home. If you wake up in the morning with a purpose, you're more likely to overcome barriers. When it comes to physical well-being, the most important idea to look at is stress, the silent killer. In the United States, more than half of the employees do not use up their vacation time. And even those that do, close to half are still tethered to their work. The problem is not the stress, it's the lack of recovery.
Stopping it there, I think people still really underestimate how much a problem stress can be and how much physical ailments it can cost you. Because I think when people think of stress, they only think of mental or psychological, which it does affect that negative as well. When it's just a continuous stress, you know, there's no relief, like he said, there's no relief or break from it, that it can really cause you a lot of harm. My friend was sent to the hospital, thought she was going to die because of the stress that was focused around the global virus, and she didn't even think it was stress. She really thought something was physically wrong with her, and the doctor told her it was just a lot of stress. And so people really underestimate that, how much stress. And it was one of the reasons why I left the States, because I wanted to de-stress my life. And it's not like you can always get away from stress, and I don't even think that should be the goal, but it's just the amount of stress that a lot of people have, that I don't think they realize how physically ill or mental, psychologically, spiritually ill is making them. And the part where he talked about meaning, again, the book that I keep touting on this channel, Lost Connections, when they talk about, amongst other things, the epidemic of mental health in the West, one of the topics hit on the loss of meaning. We don't have meaning anymore, and I think a lot of it, again, is junk values that we have in our culture, and I think it's a lot of this people moving out into the cities where it's hard for them to have community, because back in the day we had smaller communities, and so your place in that community had more importance on it. If you were a hunter-gatherer, your meaning was important because you needed to provide food for your tribe and for your community. If you were the spiritual leader, or when motherhood was more sort of respected, you know, you were helping raise the youth of this community. So a lot of your positions in that group, that tribe, that community had more meaning attached to it. And I feel like a lot of people just feel like a lack of meaning because, like, you get these monkey jobs that is easily replaceable by another person or by a machine, and people, I just feel like people generally feel lost and have a lack of meaning. But because of our junk values, people are finding meaning into things that really mean nothing. Meaning in your race, meaning in your gender, meaning in your sexuality, meaning in your tribe online. None of that really will ever fulfill you. And so I think that's a big problem in our society today, especially in the West, is the lack of meaning. But anyway, let's continue.
With intellectual well-being, there's research showing that people who are curious, who ask questions, are not just happier, they also live longer. Another important element is not just asking questions, it's deeply engaging with material. It can be text, a work of art, even nature. Relational well-being is very important. The #1 predictor of happiness is quality time we spend with people we care about and who care about us. And it turns out the #1 condition that we can put in place to increase the likelihood of anti-fragility, of growing through hardship, is the quality of our relationships.
Stopping it there. I love the last two, intellect and relationships. first hitting on intellect, that definitely put a smile on my face because I already like announced on this video that I love pursuing knowledge. I love asking questions. I love being curious about things. I love trying to figure things out. I don't understand people like, you know, sort of root themselves in one thing and go, that's it, that's the truth, don't need to learn anymore. Because to me that is such a boring life. But you know, to each his own. And I love the idea of also being really deeply like into it. I don't know exactly the words he was saying, like nature, one of them being nature, which is again another reason why I left the States and I don't live in the cities. If you've seen my backyard, I am surrounded by nature, and for the most part, any place I plant myself for a longer period of time, I'm surrounded by nature. Going out into nature, going trekking, going hiking. The part where he talks about relationships. A lot of people who have very strong communities tend to actually deal with mental health a lot less. And that was in the book Lost Connections, where they did a lot of studies of smaller groups, even religious groups like Mormon groups and stuff like that, they tend to deal with a lot less mental health. Now you can't also say because of the religion or because of the culture, they don't talk about mental health as much, but they did take that into consideration when they were doing these studies. When you have these strong communities, these strong bonds, these strong relationships, these strong family or friend cultures, because it doesn't have to be your family, not everybody's born into the best family, but we have these strong deeply connected relationships. And we know that there is a loneliness epidemic in the West that is especially affecting men, and it's really, really sad and heartbreaking. And another thing people have it confused when it comes to loneliness or relationships or friendships. He said the quality of the relationships. So even if you are surrounded by people, they even interview people, again in this book Lost Connections, married couples who felt extremely lonely in their relationships. It's a lot of times because people are making very surfacey and fake connections. It's the same thing on social media. It's like, it's worse for the Gen Z because they're literally creating their entire identity on social media. So a lot of times you create almost this avatar or this mask or this projection of what you want this community to feel like or what this community sees in you. And so a lot of these young people who are going on social media, getting themselves into these groups, they're sort of morphing themselves however they need to so they fit into this friend group, but it's fake because that's not who they really are, and they might not even be tapped into who they really are. And so a lot of times people take that same sort of thing into real life. So you might have friends, you might even have marriages and relationships that you're not really connecting with that person because you're a facade, you are a projection, you are an avatar, or you're wearing a mask however you want that person to see you or how that person sees you. And so you're not really connecting deeply, and you might not even be connected with yourself to know how to do that. And so even if you are in relationships, you can still feel incredibly lonely. So just hooking up with someone or just being in groups for the sake of being in groups isn't really going to cure that. It's really the quality of the relationship. But anyway, let's get to the last one.
Finally, emotional well-being. So embracing painful emotions is critical, but how do we then cultivate pleasurable ones? Specifically, the emotion of gratitude. Cicero talked about gratitude as the mother of all virtues. When we appreciate the good in our life, we have more of it.
Stopping it there. The reason why I reacted the way that I reacted is because, like, and I'm no cap, guys, like I literally have always said that gratitude is the foundation of joy and peace. And if you don't have gratitude, then you will always be miserable and you'll always be trying to chase after that happiness feeling, right? We actually did some sort of hippie workshop class here in India where we had to write down our 5 most important things in life, and you started with like 30 and you whittled it down to 5. And gratitude was always like, gratitude in God was always like a constant for me. And people, you know, we were supposed to explain why at the end, and I said exactly what I just said, and I think is the foundation to everything. And I think, again, the reason why you see so many people unhappy because they are just incredibly grateful. And even if you bring this up, especially my generation and the younger generation, it's almost like they're insulted. Like, what is there to be grateful for? I live in misogyny, patriarchy, racism, sexism, transphobia, whatever. What is there a purpose to be happy about? You have plenty to be happy about, unless you are living the most heinous oppression. And I mean, heinous, but most people will never experience in their life, you always have something to be grateful for. But we live in the generation of entitlement and narcissism. And this is why, again, I think mental health is such on a rise, and why so many of these people look incredibly miserable all the time. If you take stock of your life and all you write down is negative, 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 of course you're never going to be happy. But simple things like having running water out of your faucet, being able to turn on your light because you have electricity, being able to open your refrigerator, have something, anything to eat or drink, being able to clothe your body. There's so many things to be happy for, but again, with my generation and the younger generation, they don't even see those things as privileges or blessings. They see them as, I'm supposed to get this just because I exist. And so gratitude is such a fundamental thing to be grateful. And I also agree with him when it comes to being anti-fragile, because even if I have a bad moment in my life, like a really bad moment, I can still hold on to gratitude. I can still look around me and have something to be grateful for, and that keeps you from spiraling to the pits of despair. But anyway, let's continue.
So happiness is much more than pleasure.
Of course it
Happiness is whole being. These 5 elements together create that sunlight, happiness. I don't think there is a point before which one is unhappy, after which one is happy. Rather, happiness resides on a continuum. It's a lifelong journey. And knowing that, we can have realistic rather than unrealistic expectations about what is possible. I do not think that things necessarily happen for the best. However, we can learn to make the best of things that happen.
I agree with him. Not everything happens for the best, but you can make the best of whatever has happened, or God can help you make the best of whatever happened and turn that into a good thing. Okay, and so his definition of happiness is kind of my definition of joy, something that's internal, something that you don't really rely on things happening or things given to you to be happy. That happiness to me was never the definition of happiness to me was never pleasure. But I think, again, because you live in a culture of junk values, that's how people will see it. I also completely looked over the point where he said embracing negative emotion, embracing the hardship. And I think that's also important, because if you lie to yourself and think life is supposed to be absent of that, then you're really going to be shook when it happens. Hardship is a part of life, and some people unfortunately have to experience it more than others, but it's just a part of life, and you can just make the best out of it as you can. Again, for some people it's really bad, and I understand that, but for the most of us, we can get through it, right? And so anyway, guys, let me know what you think of this video in the comment section below. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the button to get the notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. If you'd like to support this channel even further, you can donate. My PayPal and Cash App link is in the description box below and also in the comment section. Of course it helps, but you don't have to. You can just like, comment, and subscribe. Another great way to support this channel is either join my brand new membership program, different levels, different tiers, different perks, or you can visit my brand new merch shop, links down below, and links to all of the alternative platforms I'm on, my socials, including my Twitter. Other ways to support me and other ways to contact me for business is always in the links down below. I also have a second travel vlog channel. I travel as a lifestyle, or I live abroad. If you'd like to know where I am in the world, you can go to the description box below and also in the comment section. Hit the link, go subscribe to my travel vlog channel, and or follow me on my travel Instagram. My stories is usually what's most up to date. And I also have my second channel, Speak Freely, links down below. And you guys have an amazing day. Bye!